Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're taking a truly mind-shifting look at the psychology of success, human relationships, and, well, the hidden traps in how we interact with others. We're going to explore a fascinating dynamic that you've almost certainly witnessed in your own life, but maybe you've never fully decoded it. I mean, have you ever wondered why some people seem to have this magnetic pull, while others, even though they're incredibly charismatic and social, somehow end up stuck just watching their peers pass them by? Today, we're diving straight into the profound difference between merely being well-liked and actually building genuine, self-reliant success. Okay, let's dive into this with a really powerful thought. Consider this. Those who learn to rely on others cannot become strong. Only those who carve their own path truly attract people. Man, it's a heavy statement, right? It cuts right through the pleasantries of everyday social life. See, there's a fundamental difference in the direction of thought between those who are truly respected and those who just aren't. And it literally all begins with how you approach your own independence. Which brings us directly to a wildly counterintuitive mystery. Why does the popular person who always gets treated eventually hit a dead end? Come on, we all know this person, right? They might not have a ton of cash, but they have a real talent for livening up a room. Because they're a blast to be around, people are always saying, "Hey, come along, I'll pay for you." At first glance, this looks like an absolutely enviable position. It looks like a social superpower. But if you actually observe the lives of people who constantly accept this offer over the long haul, they almost all hit the exact same wall. To figure out why, let's break down the surface level versus the reality. On the surface, you're the funny, entertaining friend getting a free meal. It feels like a perfectly fair trade, doesn't it? Your entertainment in exchange for their dinner. But the reality underneath, it is far more dangerous. See, by constantly getting treated, you unconsciously build this assumption that someone else is always going to provide for you. Someone else is always going to make the first move. The longer you survive without opening your own wallet, the less you feel the need to actually generate your own resources. You're quite literally stunting your own growth just because you've outsourced your survival to the generosity of everybody else. There's actually a vividly memorable and, slightly gross analogy for this. It's called the fish poop mentality. Yeah, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's about trailing blindly behind a powerful boss or a wealthy friend, kind of just feeding off the scraps. Sure, riding someone else's coattails gains you a temporary sense of security. You get into the VIP rooms, you eat the fancy dinners. But because you're just riding on the boss's shoulders, you completely fail to develop any personal strength. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is that the very second that powerful person disappears or moves on, you realize you're left with absolutely nothing. Your power wasn't yours at all. It was rented. Let's fast forward and see exactly how this plays out over time. In year one, it's harmless. You're the life of the party, entertaining your peers for drinks. But jump to year 5. This is where personal growth stalls. Because that habit of dependency is so deeply ingrained, you've lost your initiative. You've lost that inner drive to create your own value. And by year 10, well, the situation becomes genuinely grim. Trust has completely eroded, you haven't built wealth, and honestly, more importantly, you haven't built character. Your peers have all moved on and grown, and you are left entirely vulnerable. And that specific vulnerability leads directly to the temptation of the shortcut. When a person lacks a self-reliant income and they constantly depend on others, panic eventually sets in as they get older. Because they haven't built up a tolerance for slow, steady, honest effort, they don't suddenly just wake up and start working hard. Instead, they look for a quick fix. This mindset makes these individuals incredibly susceptible to malicious, sketchy business schemes. They're looking for the easy money, simply because easy is all they've ever practiced. So, how do the people at the top react to all this? Well, successful people unconsciously screen their circles. They are highly sensitive to how they spend their time and energy. This is vital to understand. Highly successful people can spot this dependent taker mindset from a mile away. And it's not that they're being mean or malicious, it's just that they know from hard experience that keeping someone around who relies on other people's wallets produces zero mutual value. Genuine leaders attract people who also think, act, and pay their own way. And this brilliantly illustrates why we need to completely redefine a word we use every single day: ambition. True ambition isn't just wanting things. It's energy generated from within to achieve things through one's own power. And here's a really profound realization. Ambition simply cannot survive in an environment of dependency. You might understand the concept of ambition in your head, but if your daily actions involve constantly piggybacking on others, that inner fire just gets smothered. You cannot cultivate self-driven energy while you're sitting around waiting for someone else to pick up the check. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it demonstrates that human behavior isn't random at all. It follows strict, recognizable patterns that actually predict our future. Take finances, for example. The taker relies on others, while the self-reliant person self-funds. Mentally, takers wait, builders generate. Think about trust. Trust doesn't just vanish overnight for the taker. It slowly, painfully erodes, while for the self-reliant, it accumulates through consistency. The ultimate outcome is exactly what we just discussed: shady shortcuts versus genuine success. Recognizing these behavioral patterns in yourself and others is the very first key to predicting where you're going to end up. Now, you might be tempted to just shrug and say, well, everyone's on their own path. People are just different. But honestly, saying people are different is often just a really convenient excuse. It's a phrase we lean on to avoid taking personal responsibility and to dodge the harsh reality of our own choices. Humanity has survived through pattern recognition. If we ignore the clear, repeated outcomes of these specific behaviors by just waving them away as to each their own, we are willfully ignoring the wisdom of experience. So, the big question is, how do we actually shift from being a taker to a builder? The first and honestly most immediate step is to stop relying on other people's wallets. Start paying your own way, even if that means you can't go to the fancy dinner. Next, you have to become a keen observer. Analyze the failures and successes around you. Don't just watch people, analyze why they succeed or fail based on the patterns we've been talking about. Learn from their choices so you don't have to make the same painful mistakes yourself. And finally, align your inner ambition with self-funded daily action. Make absolutely sure that what you dream about matches the actual work you are paying for with your own sweat and your own resources. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Ask yourself, are your daily habits making you someone who merely follows, or someone others genuinely want to follow? True respect isn't gifted to you just because you're entertaining. It's earned by the quiet, consistent act of standing on your own 2 feet. So think about your habits today and seriously consider what kind of future they are silently building for you.